See if it's still connected to Twitter or not. Hopefully. Last time I streamed BA, it wasn't connected to Twitter. RIP. Those DJ Sona icons. Yeah, it's pretty good. They have 4 of them. I didn't buy that skin. I don't really like it that much. What's that skin? It's really similar to, like... there's a Sona skin that I have that I like a lot. That's
Arcade Sona?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, why the fuck am I buying this when Arcade Sona is already, like, a pretty good skin?
Yeah, it's a tough call because, like, that skin's just fun. And... like, I like the music and all the stuff that went behind this skin. I like the idea and concept. But I'm partial to Arcade Sona.
Arcade. Yeah, he doesn't even know what Arcade Sona is. It's such a shame. It came out before DJ Sona. You can Google it, but it's a pretty cool skin. It's one of the better non-legendaries in my opinion. Especially for support. They have a habit of giving support some shitty skins. What do I use? I use definitely not Blitzcrank. Victorious Janna, Victorious Morg. Who's Victorious in Season 2? Janna? Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I have Janna. I can't even remember the rest of my support skins. Oh, DJ Sona. I think I have Koinami from Mystery Gift.
Yeah, I think there's a promo pack for Koinami on the PvE right now.
Nice. Another promo pack I'm never going to buy. Alright, so for those of you who are tuning in for your first or the first time or any time, this is put on by the Trinity Force Network. Let me change scenes really quick. So Trinity Force Network is a collection of a lot of things now. It isn't just 4 podcasts, but the bulk of it is the Trinity Force podcast, the LCS Rundown, Oslo podcast, 4 Awards podcast, and Sheen Procs. So, I mean, the T-Force podcast, meta discussion, patch notes. The LCS Rundown is like Sports Center for LCS. Oslo, Australian League of Legends. 4 Awards podcast is a podcast for newer players. If you're tuning into Bronze Bootcamp, definitely something I would check out. And just a lot of quality information. And it's not just like, I don't know, your level 30 friends who are just getting into the game. They're bringing in a lot of high-level guests. I mean, their last 3 episodes, they've had me twice, Diamond 1 Master Promo, and they've had a Challenger player. So, I would check that out. And, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. If you really want to get into it, just head over to trinityforcenetwork.com. Oh, rip, I forgot my camera was on. I'm sorry, guys. And then now playing. Wow. Alright, that's awkward. But we're back into Battle Arena Select, so I don't have to worry about that. It's weird. I'm still getting used to hopping through 3 profiles and double checking everything because it isn't what I remembered.
Yeah.
But picking bands, nothing stands out to me too much. The Cho'Gath and Amumu and Sona is kind of weird, and Annie. I don't know, a lot of weird bands, but no like bad bands.
Are we at a point to where there's like, I mean, how many bad bands are there? Like, honestly.
Well, there are good bands. I mean, like the same 4 or 5 champions are banned in every ranked game for me right now. But I don't know. There's like 8 or 10 champs that I think need to be banned, and you can only ban 6 of them, which is the issue.
Yeah.
You have to ban Noodly and Elise. If you don't, someone's gonna pick them. You have to ban Victor, somebody's going to pick it. You have to ban Shyvana, or somebody's going to pick it. What else is there? A lot of people are banning Soraka now. I don't know, there's a lot of bans. There are a lot of champions that are kind of their power levels are a little too high. Who? I don't know what who is in reference to. It looks like somebody dodged.
Probably who are good to ban, I'm assuming.
Chen. Oh, who's good to ban? I don't know. Like, just stuff you don't like playing against. And stuff with a high win rate in the lane you plan on playing. I think. I don't know. I've been trying to come up with the formula, but there's so many things that go into it because you can't just use 5 knights or 4 knights rule. Because you have to assume that the rule you pick has a much less chance of playing that champion if you don't play it. And then you have to assume how many roles can that champion go into and blah blah blah. But like the trends I've seen, because I've been trying to come up with like a ban rate calculation, is that statistically the most correct thing you can do is ban out the champions with the highest win rates in the role that you play, because you're not going to play them and the other team is likely to pick them, especially ones that your champion doesn't counter. Sorry, client crashed. That's no problem. So, remember this is tournament draft, so we're pretty flexible, stuff like this. If you're somebody who has disconnections or client crashing a lot of the time, feel free to, I don't know, maybe step out until you get it figured out. Remember that a lot of people have to wait on you. But if it's something that just happens once in a while, it's no problem at all. And remember when you get into game, it is tournament draft, so /pause, /unpause, pretty good commands. Also, this is my first time using this mic stand in this scene, so if my voice is too loud and it's clipping in Streamland, please let me know so I can get it fixed before the game starts. I really don't want to give you guys an endless feedback loop of listening to it myself, so let's start. Peaking sun, too little hot, too manly voice, peaking some. Alright. So if it's just peaking a little, I'm going to try and move it a little further away from my mouth and see if that works before I adjust audio levels. Just got a new mic stand, so we're kind of figuring it out. I'm trying to get a comfortable position in my chair before I sit for 3 hours. Alright, so it looks like same bands, probably same picks.
Yeah.
Not any terrible picks here. I'll say first picking Riven's a little scary, but if you play a lot of Riven, it's not a big deal. So, also first picking Devourer jungle is a little scary. If somebody picks like Warrior, or if they can put in Nidalee or Elise, and Nidalee and Elise, or just really imposing early game junglers aren't banned out, and you pick a Devourer jungle, you can be in for a rough game. But Victor's really broken. He's fine to first pick. Can I get the sign up link? Yes. One second. Wow.
Ah!
Alright, so I don't know if he's still online or not. If he comes back, I'll invite him. If not, we'll give it like 30 seconds. I think that's pretty reasonable to log into your client. If not, I'll send out invites because there are a couple people that are on. This is the first game. It usually starts at 12, but we've had some trouble filling. Please, if you sign up for the 12 o'clock game, we send out the first invites at 11:55. So hop in here. It makes it a lot easier for us. It makes it a lot easier for people who want to watch the YouTube VOD, and it's just, I don't know, like, you showing up on time makes it much easier for everybody. Wouldn't be BBC if a game didn't mess up. So we're gonna invite 5 Shadow Facts. Can invite some of my friends. That'd be interesting. Maokai, he's in game. His name is iMaokai. I never understood this, but he never plays Maokai. Rip. Alright. So, we already started game 1. Nikov. I believe I sent you an invite. Also, the signups go out at 11:55. So, if you're not here early, the game can start potentially as early as 12. So, like, signing up guarantees you a spot, but signing up only guarantees you a spot if you're here on time. That being said, you haven't played yet today, so if you show up for games 2 and 3, we'll definitely get you in. So, hopefully same band pick. There's one new player in here, but he's 5th pick. So, I'll plug some more T4 stuff. So, this is what the Bronze Bootcamp sign-up sheet looks like. You can get there. This is how you get there if you haven't ever been there before. You go to TrinityForceNetwork.com. This should be bookmarked. I don't have it bookmarked because it shows up as soon as I type TR. But hit Battle Arena, sign-up sheet. This is the sign-up sheet for Battle Arena. If you want to sign up for Bronze Bootcamp, you go to Bronze Bootcamp and you click Sign Up. This is what we invite from. I usually invite the first 10 people on this list at 11:55. At about 11:57, I'll invite the rest of the list. And then for games after the first one, we invite, like, I don't know, people who haven't played yet get priority, but we kind of invite everybody. So, also remember that the games are on Twitch. You're already watching us on Twitch, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But they're uploaded to YouTube, so just click the YouTube link, the Trinity Force Podcast YouTube. A lot of good stuff there. And community tab, head over to Reddit/T-Force Network. A lot of interesting stuff here. I think interesting's the best word. Suva Thresh with Clairvoyance. So I'll go into Riven versus Darius here. Oh. Darius is a pretty linear champion. He wins most lanes he plays, but the way Darius works, if you can juke out his Q, he loses a lot of trade potential and people can actually beat him in lane. So as Riven playing against Darius here, you really want to try and like juke his Q with your E and then look for trades. But if you can't juke his Q with your E, it's not a very favorable trade. You can hard trade and tank a Q as Riven and then try and dodge pull, but that's a little bit harder and it's way less safe. Because at that point, you're already so far in, if you mess up and you get pulled, you're dead. Whereas if you just try and dodge Q, you're kind of not in the worst spot because your E is still up. But I think that's how the lane is played for the most part. Riven does okay against Darius. Don't be afraid to get a lot of Doran's items, like a blade and a shield, or 2 blades, or 2 blades and 1 shield. I think Riven's somebody who does fine sitting on Dorans. She doesn't need boots as much as some other champions. You can sit on a couple of Dorans, maybe get a Brutalizer, your Tiamat, stuff like that. But that's how Riven should look to play it. But I talked a lot about how Riven wants to win the lane. Darius really want to pay attention to when Riven's E is up. Like I said, Riven should be looking to outplay your Q. If Riven's E isn't up, you should be looking for trades. And you shouldn't ever Q to farm. If you Q to farm, Riven's going to all on you. So, just, your Q is kind of the, I don't know, the big point of this matchup. And I've talked about it a lot from Riven's standpoint and your standpoint. So it's kind of up to you to play correctly, but it's up to Riven to outplay you. And as far as power spikes in the lane go, Darius is pretty strong at 1 and 2, and so is Riven. I think they both have a good 3. I think they both have similar power spikes. I think they both have a good 1 through 5, and they're both strong at 6. So, we'll touch on mid lane, then we'll go bot.
Okay.
So mid lane, what do we have? Karma? I was looking for a mid, and I saw Thresh. I was like, wow, it's Karma mid. So Karma versus Victor. Victor wins almost any lane he plays with now. I don't know why he's taking Cleanse. I guess it works against Thresh Q, but it really doesn't work against much besides Karma slow. And I don't know. Generally, you don't take cleanse when you play against Gragas because it doesn't do anything against explosive cask. So I would like to see barrier or heal. Maybe he'll change. But they're both really strong laners. Victor scales into late game a little harder damage-wise, and Karma brings a little more utility to the table. But the lane's going to come down to whether Karma can hit Qs, especially Qs with Mantra, or if Victor's hitting lasers and Karma. Like, they just both have one really important damage skill in their trades. Victor has Q too, but the E is much more important, and it comes down to who's hitting their skill shots. So, Kate took Clarity. Let's talk about jungle. I feel like we're going to have to talk about that for a while.
Yeah.
So, Elise versus Gragas. Gragas is really strong early game. Late game, he's still useful because of the utility that Body Slam and Explosive Cast bring. As late game Gragas, I see a lot of people who use Explosive Cast as a scatter mechanic. Really want to be looking to displace an important target. Put Kate or Victor back into your team. Maybe peel for your own team. It has a lot of uses, but hopefully I don't see just going into 5 people and pressing R. I mean, it's neat, but you don't R for damage anymore. You need to have a purpose every time you R. But they're both pretty similar 1 through 6, and Gragas is a little bit better 6. I'd say Elise is a little bit better 1 through 5. And Elise scales a little bit better, but I would say they're similar late game, although Elise scales better. Explosive Cast is game changing. Like, some champions don't scale the best, but if they have like a game changing mechanic, they scale just because of how strong that mechanic is. Like Lee Sin. Lee Sin doesn't scale that one to late game, but if you get a really good ultimate off, he certainly scales in usefulness. Elise's win rate skyrocketed recently. Yeah, I think she was really strong, and she's being picked and banned quite a bit in high elo, and then they decided to buff her and Runeglaive on the same patch because Riot doesn't pay attention to anything. I don't know. I think Riot needs to stop listening to the community as much. I think they should like pay attention to high level gameplay. But I won't get too salty. We'll talk about bot lane. We have Janna Kate against Jinx Thresh. So you want to talk about why Clarity is bad on Caitlyn?
Yeah, there's a lot you could say about Clarity on Caitlyn. It's when you compare like Clarity on Caitlyn as opposed to like Heal or any other defensive summoner speller that you could bring into a lane. Clarity gives you mana, and if you're using Piltover Peacemaker just at will and running out of mana and feeling you need Clarity, you're probably using Piltover Peacemaker possibly a little incorrectly, because if you just continuously shove the wave without adding any sort of additional pressure, you're putting yourself at a lot of risk. It's you wanna have some sort of control of the lane as Caitlyn, especially if you've got a Janna who can give you shield and more just AD on your auto attacks. You kind of want to zone in control with that as opposed to just throwing out spells at random, because if an all-in happens, your Clarity is only going to give you more mana, and after Piltover Peacemaker, you've got a net and then a trap. Whereas Jinx is going to have a heal to be able to either disengage or re-engage on a fight.
And I think the way I'm going to start explaining it is like, when you run out of mana, you don't die. When you run out of health, you're dead. And like, I don't know, being out of mana is, I don't know, like if you run out of mana, you don't die. And dying is a pretty big deal. So having spells that give you health is really important, because in 2v2s, a Clarity doesn't do anything. If you really need health, Clarity doesn't do anything. Late game, Clarity doesn't do that much. It's just a skill you take to handicap poor mana management, but really a skill you shouldn't be taking. But as far as the bot lane matchup goes, we have Kate Janna against Jinx Thresh. That's a pretty strong lane for Kate Janna. The Jinx Thresh has a potential to outplay if Thresh hits hook on either of them and they're really out of position. But Kate can fight 2v2 if Janna isn't too out of position. And the Janna can just shield Kate and kind of fight if Kate isn't like too out of position. Thresh is interesting now because he's been nerfed. His base stats have been nerfed a lot, and Jinx has been nerfed a lot early in lane as well. Like 6 months ago, this lane would be very different. But Janna against a lot of lanes, even if you get hit with the blitz hook or thresh hook, if you're not too out of position after you get hit with the hook, you can fight auto 2v2s. But you just need to not be scared. If one person's scared, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Her dying is life-changing. Not doing the best at articulating today. I'm sorry, guys. So, we'll line up portraits like we do every time. The Karma mid lane's gonna mess me up because I'm gonna keep looking for Karma. I don't think Karma's a terrible support right now. I think her biggest issue is if she falls behind, she's not incredibly useful. I think that's one of the big issues with Annie's support too, and why I don't think it's an amazing solo key pick. It's really strong mid game, and it's really strong if you're ahead, but if you're not ahead, Annie doesn't have a lot of use sometimes. She's one of the harder supports to play from behind. So, we'll look at skills. One of the important things we usually point out in Bronze Bootcamp is you don't want to skill level 1. You never know when you'll need those skills, potentially in an invade or something like that. We'll take somebody's example, Kate. If Kate face checks this bush up here and she doesn't have E, she could potentially die when she would not have to die or flash or use anything. I don't know. You're not giving up anything by waiting to skill. It's not hurting you at all. It's just a lazy habit that could potentially punish you. So, really want to look not to do that. And same with the least. Like, I don't know, if you get into a scrimmage and you don't have Cocoon, that's a pretty big deal. And especially in the last patch, Cocoon got a buff. It's 1.6 instead of 1 now. It's a lot stronger at 1 point. Like, I think that is the thing that made Elise's win rate skyrocket. Even though she was a good champ before the patch, the getting 0.6 seconds on rank 1 of a skill for CC, like hard CC, I really don't know what Riot was thinking. She's going to be 100% banned in every competitive game. She's already a strong competitive pick. So, just generally don't want to skill level 1. TLDR. Starting items, pretty standard. I don't mind the starts from everybody. I would like to see Spelthy instead of Janna. When you play with Kate, you're going to be getting a lot of autos off, and you're going to be looking for a lot more trades. But, not the worst. Peter, have you played AD Cog? Oh, there's another Peter. So, anyone out there in Streamline, if you want to take predictions on who's going to win this game, or if you have any questions about the game, maybe you play some of these champions, and I don't know, there's something you've always wondered, I can probably help you out with that. So, feel free to stay active in stream chat. And Darius burned a pot here. This is a small thing, but he burned a pot with 120 missing health. If Riven doesn't go for a trade there, he loses like 120 health of efficiency, assuming no health regen. Assuming health regen, he loses like 110 to 105. Oh no, it goes backwards. He loses more, but not good. Make sure you're missing at least 150 health before you pop a pot. Unless you're like in a team fight and you know 100% you're gonna take more damage, then it's useful. But this isn't a terrible route out of Gragas. The reason I don't like this route is 1, you don't hit 3 for a while. 2, it's much more efficient. You just do this guy, the Poison Frog, Wolves, Scuttle, and then you smite up again for blue buff, because 1, you're running low on mana, and 2, blue buff is a harder camp to kill. Hit level 3, one side of your jungle, around 310, 315 depending on the champion. And you have a really good cheese bot lane if you're not a red buff dependent champion. If you're red side and you gank bot lane at 3 minutes, like, they're not expecting that. I don't know, like, one side jungle cheeses are one of my favorite things. You have to be careful though that the gank is pretty close to 100% if you go for that, because Elise should be finishing red then blue, and if she goes, she can just 3 buff you if you show bot. So that's kind of what you want to worry about when you're doing a one side route, getting 3 buffed. That being said, the big camps don't give significantly more experience. So if you're playing a champion like Gragas that isn't as dependent on the red, getting 3 buffed isn't like that big a deal. But see Gragas going into Lisa's jungle and dropping the sword and taking Wolf. Smiting Wolf is okay here. I generally don't like Smiting Wolf. It does give you that Spectral Wolf though, so you'll have vision of her going into the jungle. I think this is kind of redundant though, warding and smiting a Wolf. I think it'd be more correct to smite Wolf and then walk out here and ward this. Or ward here. His ward and his Wolf are accomplishing the same thing, where he could have spaced them out a little bit more. But it's not a huge deal. Small things matter though. Like, yeah. Some things like that seem really, really small, but when you add up like 100 small things, it's the difference between like silver and diamond. So we'll see. Watch this gank bot. So these don't lead with Cocoon if you're not sure you're gonna hit it. Maybe get on top of them and lead with Spider, or wait for Janna to hit W or Q. I really don't know why you led with Cocoon there. Like, that was 100% kill if either of those Cocoons had hit. And if you have any skill like that, like if you're playing Morgana or Elise, if you have like a binding skill and you have any kind of CC in the lane, wait for that CC to hit first. Imagine you're playing Morgana and you have a Twisted Fate. Do you go for the binding or do you wait for TF to hit gold card first? I mean, it's clear that you wait for him to hit gold card, because you can't miss a binding if he stuns first. Or you shouldn't. But way to gank top. Pretty good gank. The Darius wins a lot of lanes, but the counter to Darius is getting camped. So as a Darius player, you really need to be aware of A, where the jungler is, and just, I don't know. I think if I was playing Darius most games, I would try and push like around 3 or 4. When I don't think the junglers come, we're going to have ward coverage. And then get it into tower so the wave resets and it freezes back near my tower for like that minute or 2 while I don't have trinket. Especially when you don't have ignite. If you don't have ignite, you have a lot less pressure to kill the jungler when they come. If you have ignite and Darius, sometimes you can just kill somebody when a gank comes. So, Jinx went Zerks. Not one of my favorite buys. I think if you have 875, you just buy pickaxe here. If you have a little bit less, 2 long swords isn't bad. Dorans and boots isn't bad. Long sword and Dorans isn't bad. But tier 2 boots don't give you a lot of combat stats. They don't give you AD. They don't give you health. They don't give you lifesteal. You could even go vamp some games. But generally, I don't know any champion that rushes tier 2 boots bot lane. Pretty close game outside of that first gank though. Cargens went Sightstone. I do like Sightstone on some junglers. I don't think you have to build it, but I like it. Wow. Active laser, no. Victor, you should just waited for laser before you tried to pull that off. Like laser into ult with your flash. Flashing with just ult if you're not 100% sure you're going to kill them. Why it's cool you push Karma out of lane. Karma's gonna get back to this lane before you, and you're down ultimate and flash. And I guess she's down flash, but she's not down flash because of you, or she shouldn't be. So Riven's holding her own. Against Darius, if you just hit all your CS and like play cautiously until the jungler comes, that's how you're gonna win more lanes than not. If you fight Darius, it's really hard to win unless you outplay him. So Riven's playing the matchup well. I think I said that on forwards. The counter to Darius is your jungler. It sounds like there's some champions that are just really hard to play against in lane, but they don't get played against because their skills push lane and they're easy to camp. Darius is a good example of that. Malzahar is. Ooh, flush that wall. That's good. This guy's pretty good for level 19. The Riven?
Mm-hmm.
No, level 17. He knows how to last hit and teleport. He's already a good bronze bootcamp player.
And now jumping over for a dragon, that's good.
Yeah, it's really good to rotate in the dragon here. That is why Thresh wins a lot of lanes now. Even though Thresh's base stats have been nerfed a lot and his 2v2 is kind of weak. I actually had this discussion with Daze a while ago. She disagreed with me that Thresh beats Sona. And I think in a straight up vacuum, Sona beats Thresh most of the time. But in a real world scenario, a lot of times Thresh wins the lane because of how good Thresh's gank assist is and how easy Sona is to kill. Yeah, I think we really saw that there.
Yeah, with Thresh, is like, even with like all the nerfs he's had in the past like season and whatnot, he still brings like a lot of just really important tools. Very little supports have anymore. Like the Lantern is a great gank assist tool, the Flay, the Hook, the Box.
Did she upgrade her thing? Is Nomad's the second one or the first one?
Nomad's second.
Alright, so Janna, you're behind in lane, you really need to like be buying more wards or be buying health. So that 500 you dropped into your second support item, if you had Sightstone, extra 80 health there, you may still have died, but like when you're behind bot lane you buy health. You don't finish your support item. Especially the biggest thing, if you're behind and you lose flash, you like have to buy health. Because if they see you come back in the lane and they're timing your flash and they're like, oh, there's a Janna or Sona or a Nami or whatever and they don't have flash and they upgraded their spell thieves or their coin, they don't have health, I'm gonna kill this idiot. Like, if I saw a support walk in a lane with 700 health and no flash, I would just laugh and collect gold. I'd AFK if I got ganked like this. Oh, Thresh doesn't have flash. I thought Thresh was gonna flash hook over the wall. I do this on Fiddlesticks sometimes. If you ult out like this, you can't see, but people in Streamland can. You don't take tower aggro and you can die people because you're a little bit off, but you can still fear. You can hit laser? No. So Victor, knowing how much damage your ult does is kind of the biggest thing I'm seeing here. You've ulted Karma twice without E up, and you're not executing her. And you're putting yourself in a pretty bad position to do that. Wow. That's a true support.
Yeah.
So personally, I think Jinx got away with murder there. I think flashing into Elise if you haven't seen Cocoon in the last 10 seconds is kind of not the smartest thing. And if John had paid a little more attention there and came up to shield more quickly, the Elise probably should have lived. Like,
yeah.
I think as Jinx you don't flash forward if you haven't seen Cocoon in a while. That was a pretty bad play. So, how long does Bronze Bootcamp run into? Dr. Bomb, we do 3 games every Saturday at noon Eastern time. So, first game is at noon, second game is at 1 p.m. give or take, and third game is at 2 p.m. give or take. It runs for 3 hours. If you want to sign up, somebody can link you the sign up sheet in chat. I'm sure somebody will. So, Karma came back and she got pink ward, green ward, and pots. This is good. She's got Morelos too. She can really bully Victor here. This is what you want to do as Karma. Even when you play unconventional picks, you need to understand why the pick is unconventional and why your unconventional pick is strong. So, Karma isn't played mid because 1, if you fall behind, she isn't incredibly strong, and 2, she doesn't scale into late game with damage that well. So, let's think like what you would do to make Karma strong. You would want to try and build, like, get a lead early and not fall behind. I don't know, i.e. win lane. But she's doing well. Delise is really getting punished for her lack of warding. We look at vision here on the map. Blue team, oh, they have all defensive wards too. I mean, I guess they're losing, but if you look at red team's vision, whoa, my keys are bad today. A couple deep wards. I don't know, it's not that much better. Never mind. But both teams could be warding a lot better. This is a mistake I see a lot, and not just in bronze. This is actually a mistake I see a lot in like plat and low diamond. And people who TP to gank, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna flank these people because you have a ward in the second bush, hardy har." And sometimes this is good play, but if the other top laner can follow and like fight a better 3v3, that's not a smart play to go for. I think you really saw that out of Darius. So this is one of the issues with Elise, and this is one of the reasons I say Elise is a really strong pick. But I don't think she's a great jungler in low elos, is that she's really item dependent, and if you're sitting on Runeglaive and only Runeglaive at 15 minutes and you're not starting that second item that probably has resists on it, you're so squishy. Just not good.
That was actually a good Gragas ultimate.
Yeah, it was. And yet look, blue team got ganked there. One of the reasons they got ganked there, looking at the vision on the map, not a lot, especially dragon side, blue side. Look at red team's entire river's warded. They know what's going on. So this red team, I would just take dragon here. I think you have more to lose than you have to gain. The Darius, I don't mind building offensive items on Darius. When you fall behind, you have to build tanky. He still, if you go tanky, he has a lot of zoning potential in team fights because you can just stand at the edge next to a carry and threaten with pull. But if you're squishy and you're a threat to get one shot on a bruiser, it's not good. I can't think of any bruisers in this game that can build full damage if they're behind. Maybe Rengar because of his ultimate. But I probably would have maybe not finished Tiamat and just used those longsword and pickaxe to build other items in the future and gone straight into tanky, or I would have stopped at Tiamat and maybe like started towards ninja tabbies or a defensive item. But also you have to understand what Riven's win condition is. As Darius, if you're tanky, your base damages are still really high, and you can 2v2, and it's much harder for Riven to kill you. If you're squishy on Darius and you're losing to a Riven, the Riven can now all-in you, and that lane is much worse. So, a lot of pings going out. Looks like Firepower's pinging this out for the Karma, but she didn't react. That happened. This is something I want to point out. I've been seeing Rejuvenation beat a lot more than I want to lately. If you buy this item, there's probably something else you could have bought. Like, I understand it has health regen and it's not like nothing, but it's pretty close to nothing. I would say like instead of Rejuvenation, beat just buy 2 pink wards. Especially if you plan on taking dragon, it would have been really useful to just pink ward the front of the pit like that. I guess you can sweep it too, but and that is like the biggest issue with falling behind on Elise. Stuff like this starts to happen. So going up and down builds, we have a comment in chat. Somebody built Blade of the Rune King on Jinx. Not a big fan of the item. I think sometimes it's okay 4th if they have a really tanky team. Usually it isn't, but I think IE should always be your first item on Jinx.
Yeah, Jinx spikes really well with just Infinity Edge because of that attack speed steroid she has. It's just, she already kind of just synergizes well with it, especially if you went Berserker Greaves. That IE would have helped out a lot. Like, Blade of Rune King you kind of want to use against like more durable champions, and blue team right now doesn't have a whole lot of durability.
And Blade is better than IE at one item on pretty much like every champion. But like the 2, 3, 4 items, it's not the best. Sometimes you do get Blade as a 4th item instead of BT. If you go 3rd item, Lifesteal, it's usually almost always BT. But I think on Jinx, like 90% of the time you get BT over Blade, even 4th item or 3rd. Crits just scale it too well into late game, and BT passive can't crit.
Right.
I mean, Bork passive can't crit. And BT gives you a lot more survivability, and you are on a no escape champion. Wow. The God hooks. Karma's playing well. I wonder if she's CDR per level blues. Can I hit C? No. So on Karma, it's pretty important. I think the 2 builds on her that you can go is you can go Morelos and CDR boots, or you can go Morelos with CDR per level blues. But it's really important to hit that 40% CDR for mantra spam. Abuse your early to mid game power spikes. So I can't check because the C command is broken for me, but hopefully that is what she has. Oh, you've had it red up only for the game for a while. I'm sorry, I kind of spaced out. So the game's pretty close actually, even though, wow, how is it so close? I don't understand how it was so close. Oh, blue team has 3 towers, and they're ahead in CS on 2 lanes. So that's why. So, like, towers are really important, and they give a lot of gold. And last hitting is really important too. So that is why gold lead is close. Although red team has 2 Cargens, which doesn't show on gold count, and they have like better ward pressure on the map. And it's really concerning for me as blue team here. When you get towers, the reason I think towers snowball harder than dragon in this meta is because you can start to ward out the other team's jungle really hard once you start to get towers. But I guess they're starting to, they have a couple of deep wards. I would really like to see the Elise ward more though. And I would like to see the Elise go into a assist item. Either go into a tanky item or go into like an abyssal or an hourglass. I don't think haunting guys is what she needs. Blue team's late game is pretty bad compared to red. Dave, Kate, Victor, Janna. I don't know. I think they're both. I think the late games are about the same. Because Victor's better than Karma late, and Janna's way better than Thresh late. Jinx is a little better than Kate at 4 or 5 items, but Kate comes back at 6. At least relative to Jinx. RIP. So, see blue team coming back. A lot better ward coverage on the map. They got this entire side of the jungle warded out, and they got 2 picks because of it. So, really good. Recognizing their win condition. Getting some picks and starting to come back. I'll say the biggest issue with this play, and anytime this happens, like, I get pretty salty personally, but it's a pretty big thing. When your entire team dies on the map like that, and you're a jungler, and you're split pushing in the lane, that's really on you. So, I don't know. When you have a lead as a jungler, split pushing is one of the worst things that you can do. You're basically just giving the other team a free window to come back, and the only thing you're doing, you're not only giving the other team a free window to come back, you're denying lane farm. It's not a very smart play.
Yeah. I'm noticing a whole lot of just grouping coming in from blue right now. I think they realized that this game was close, if not they were losing, and they just started stacking up and just roaming around the map, finding people out of place. And it's worked with them so far. They've been able to ascertain a bit of a gold lead at this point.
Riven is greater than Darius late game. Riven's late game is really comp dependent. If they have a lot of CC, Riven's actually not a great late game champion sometimes. And they both serve a similar niche too. Like Riven wants to flash W late game and Darius wants to flash pull. And they both zone out carries really hard in team fights. I would say they're more similar than they are different. Ruin has more potential to like 1v9, but Darius is also like a bigger wall. So it really depends on the fight and on the game. Oh, Jinx. That's just doing a lot of really good hooks to keep his team in this game. So this Darius, my teleport's coming up. I really want to be looking at this map and trying to find a play. Looks like he is. Might be too little too late though. Wow. If I was that Jinx, I'd rage so hard right now. Dunk. Oh, we're not cooldown. Wow. So, really want to try not to overstay like that. In Thresh, remember to use your active. I think if you'd used your face, that could have gone a lot differently. But blue team's just playing really cocky. And if you look at the tower count still, they only have 2 towers to red's 4. They did get a lot of kills, and they got a couple of dragons, and they snowballed all their lanes. But they didn't really do anything with it. And when you have Karma Jinx, I really don't know why you're not sieging. So, like, Karma with blue buff and Morelos is probably like one of the best, if not the best siege mid laners I can think of. Trying to stay on tower with Karma Qs and like how quickly Jinx can take a tower is wow. So blue team got their first dragon. Also a really big deal. Something people forget about with dragon is actually, how does dragon work? Does it work if you're behind on levels or gold?
What do you mean?
Dragon gives you extra EXP if you're behind, but I don't know if it's if you're behind on levels or if you're behind on gold.
I'd almost have to feel like it would be experience more than anything else. That one I don't know actually for certain.
But really important when you're ahead not to give up dragons, because the team that is behind will get extra experience. And they'll get that first dragon buff, which is really important, especially once you hit the mid to late game when they're starting to get more items. So really poor dragon control out of red team there with their lead. Although it's not lead anymore.
It looks like Janna might actually be building a Zeke's.
Possibly. Oh yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Not the worst item she could build right now. Trying to think. I don't know. I'd probably get Mikhail's. If I see my teammates eating hooks all game, Mikhail's is probably my go-to. But
yeah.
Good pick on Victor, but good job of Victor to get his damage down. Gragas, this is really what you want to look not to do in Gragas in a team fight. A, get caught. B, use explosives cast just to scatter people. Like I said, every R should have a purpose, and his R didn't really have a purpose there. It was a shit, I'm dead, I'm gonna press R. Bonus EXP is sharply increased for the lowest level members of the team, 15% per number of levels behind Dragon squared, max total 200% extra. So, Lancifer posted a good link in chat. Dragon's really important for the underleveled people on your team. So, the Kate, the Janna at least, got a really big buff taking that dragon. And that's big. I think levels are one of the most undervalued aspects of this game, but every level you get a point in a skill, you get a lot health, you get mana, you get attack speed, you get AD, you get armor. Levels are a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
I saw a video online and they had a Xin Zhao that was level 1 with full items, and they had Xin Zhao that was level 18 with no items. The Xin Zhao that was level 1 with 6 items did win the 1v1, but it was pretty close. Like the Xin Zhao that was level 18 with no items was He held his own for a bit. Like, the fight went on for 15 or 20 seconds. And it just goes to show, like, how important levels are. The 18 levels can be that close to 6 items. So, Brown's doing good. He got the... He's sweeper there. No, he got the Raptor buff, so... Really, Red Team did a good job with vision early, but they kind of got cocky and stopped. If you look at the map, not a lot by them, and their wards are like hyper defensive. And nobody's bought a pink in a long time. Like, the couple of times Frown Powers came back, he's gotten a cloth armor. You should be buying pink wards, not the second cloth armor. The rejuvenation bead should be buying pink wards. Rejuvenation bead's worthless. As Irvin there, you really need to play around flash. If you're on top of them and you can W and you don't know if they have flash or not, you press W. That Victor should have died. Elise should have went Rise instead of Leandries. No, Elise needs resistances, like, really badly.
Ooh.
Rise is really expensive, and it's not bad. Like, it has slows and has AP, but it doesn't make you that tanky. And her issue early game was being not tanky.
What would you recommend in this situation? Like maybe an Abyssal Scepter after Runeglaive?
Yeah, I would have gone Abyssal Hourglass. Or I would have gone like Locket. You could go Locket Hourglass or Locket Frozen Heart is good. Get that CDR Spineless Cocoons. She can build so many things. I think like the keynote if you play a jungler like Elise or I'm trying to, like Jarvan or something like that can build damage viably. If you're dying, you need to stop building damage. And Rylai's is a tank item, but it's a damage item too. Like, you're paying 3,000 gold and the only tankiness you're getting is 400 health.
Hawk got super greedy. He just needed to go home.
So, is this bonus EXP the most likely reason why I've seen people who have more kills, assists, and CS than other player but be behind in levels? Yeah, there are a lot of things on this map that give EXP that you don't think about. So, I'll go into a couple of them. Dragon gives extra EXP for people who are behind, and it gives a flat EXP. Baron gives 800 local EXP to everybody who took it, and it gives 600 EXP to everybody on the map. The 800 local is split. Towers give EXP. Just, I don't know, objectives give a lot of EXP. And that's why you can snowball, like, not only in gold, but also in levels and objectives at the same time. Whereas by farming and killing, you're just kind of snowballing and farming, I don't know, CS and kills. Objective play is good. 1 second.
Sure.
Wow, I'm sorry, that was probably painful.
Yeah, it's alright. Blue team's got good vision control around Dragon right now. Red's kind of like in the dark at the moment.
So this is blue. Cargens pointing that out, and this is red. Not the best. So is Riven, you really need to be there for that fight. Dragon's up every 6 minutes. You should probably be there 30 seconds to 45 seconds before Dragon spawns, if not even a minute. Reasoning behind getting there early. Wow.
Probably should have just left Darius to die.
Yeah. So why you want to get there early? The Scuttle Crab, really important, gives movement speed. Movement speed is really underrated, but it's strong in team fights. Also gives vision. Vision's very underrated in team fights, but strong. You can establish ward control, and getting zones is important. besides that Darius play, blue team's vision was really strong in that fight, and is the reason they won that fight for a long time. So, Jinx won double lifesteal. Really not a big fan here. She's not going to get Last Whisper until at least like 38 to 40 minutes, and she's not going to get IE until like 45 to 50. She could go IE now, but going Last Whisper 5th should never ever ever happen. Last Whisper should be at the latest 4th. Maybe on Vayne 5th, if nobody has armor. And one of the reasons Last Whisper is really strong, I say this a lot, but every champion in the game gets armor per level. I'm trying to find somebody who doesn't have any armor. So even someone like Kate, who's a squishy 80 carry with no armor items, she's 72 now. Like, Last Whisper scales really well. And it's cheap. It's a very quick power spike. It's always useful. Always good in the late game because of armor per level. So, see vision control again, pretty good by blue team. Red team's got a couple, but not as strong. We'll see what happens. Oh wow. So, if we look at that Thresh hook for a second, he hooked over here, no vision, no vision, no vision, no vision, and he got wrecked. So, really got punished for poor vision. Taking a blind hook at 36 minutes in Baron's in play, even vision aside, is probably a questionable call. You're going on like one of those haunted cart rides at the fair. You don't know where you're going or what's going to be in the next tunnel. Alright, so... oh, that's interesting. So once again, getting punished. If you look at red team, the lack of vision here, the face check, none of this is warded at all. Their poor Baron ward's almost lost in the game right there. And one of the biggest takeaways I want everyone to see is Jinx not having Scrying Orb. I've been seeing this a lot. I've been doing a couple of 80 carry replays and lessons, and when you don't have Scrying Orb and you have to face check stuff like this or this or this that the 80 carry could easily scry, like, it's kind of on you as an 80 carry. Like, that is what Scrying Orb is used for a lot of the time. And you can't always use it to save your teammates from face checking, but if your teammates face check and you haven't like switched from your tier 1 warding totem to Scrying Orb, that really is on you. It's something you could easily prevent. I mean, like, it's free. Warding totem has like no use for an 80 carry late game too. I mean, you could ward a bush in a team fight, but late game you shouldn't be walking around to bushes and warding them.
I feel like you could accomplish the same thing though in a team fight when you just use Scrying Orb though.
Exactly.
I think at this point in the game too, like, this is worth noting, like, the only person that has some sort of like armor reduction, magic reduction item right now is Riven with the Last Whisper. Both mid laners don't have Void Staff yet, and people have been stacking resistances.
So, Thresh getting punished for poor vision. So, poor vision isn't just poor vision in the here and now, like right when you get caught. It's your vision before in the last 1 or 2 minutes. Because if you know where they are, like, relatively on the map at any point in time in the game, it's not as scary to go ward. But if you're dark for periods of like 2 or 3 minutes, it's really hard to reestablish ward control. So maintaining consistent ward control throughout the game is kind of why this Thresh is getting punished so hard. One of the questions I get a lot too, and Elise just died, and it isn't why she died, but wow. RIP. So red team really need to acknowledge that the other team's in your base taking the Nexus towers. I don't really know what else to say about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer the quick I'll actually talk about it on builds when I do Elise.
Okay.
Is scene switcher set up for this one or no? No. So after each game, it looks like we have 1 or 2 new people here. We do the advanced details. We start the lobby for the next game a minute or 2 and after this comes up. So be looking for invites. And in advanced details, we give each person a couple of things to work on for the next game. We look at the flow of the game and what happened and why we think it happened, and we just talk about general trends that should probably improve, like the no pink wards out of Cargens. But we'll get into that shortly. So, what do you think Jana could have done to improve her gameplay?
Jana specifically, I don't know. That's a tough call. I was looking more at like jungle, top lane, mid lane during the game. Like her items are pretty good so far. I almost want to say mobility boots with Jana in particular. Like with the amount of speed that she just gets passively is pretty important. She got a talisman, a lot of decent items. I think there's just a few situations where people got caught out. Maybe be a little bit more reactive in terms of her play. I would have liked to have seen a Mikhail's, especially with the amount of just like CC that was being eaten via thresh hooks and whatnot. So I would like to have seen a Mikhail's more than anything. Like I like Zeke's, but I think if your team needs some sort of get out of CC free card, Mikhail's is like the #1 pick. As well, while Zeke's gives you more damage per se, you can't do damage if you're CC and locked out and just assassinated like right off the bat. So I would have liked to have seen just like a Mikhail's possibly.
So, biggest things I saw of Jana. Your shields are really slow in lane. So, generally, you should almost always be like hovering shield on your AD carry. And the reasoning behind always hovering shield in your AD carry is that you should be using the keybind to shield yourself. I don't know what the default one is because I've changed mine, but go into keybinds and look for the self-shield one. Somebody in stream chat may be able to help me for that. And you'll be much quicker at your shields because you'll always be hovering your carry, and then you can just self-shield. Or it's the same thing for any champions with the heal. So the self-heal or heal your carry. You'll be much faster with the heals and your shields if you're just hovering teammates, and then you can use the self. And KO, I think self-ult, you can do that too. Shift, and maybe shift. But also, I don't know. I think the ward coverage early game was really poor, but I think you recognized that and helped fix it. We'll look at the wards. It may not have been you, maybe a team effort, but the warding looked quite a bit better. So early warding and just how quickly you can shield. I think that's one of the biggest things I see between like low elo and high elo Janas is how quickly they can shield and land. It's something you can practice. It's not incredibly hard mechanically. But what do you think about Thresh?
Thresh in lane was playing super aggressive. He was throwing out a lot of hooks, picking up a lot of fights, was able to get a lot of like early kills for his team. Something I saw with Thresh as well I saw with Jana is they upgraded their gold item before they actually moved into Sightstone. I feel like the Sightstone's a pretty important upgrade, especially if you're going face to the mountain. Your first upgrade isn't going to necessarily give you more gold per se. It's just going to give you more charges that you have to burn. I would have just liked to have seen the Sightstone early and just really started establishing that vision control. After that, Moby boots are fine. Face the mountain, good. Lock of the Iron, all good. I think at a certain point, when your team starts to fall behind, you have to identify that trying to find that random hook to jump in and start a team fight is no longer going to be your only option or your option that you should take. You should probably think about playing a more defensive Thresh and trying to peel for your carries who are trying to do the damage. There were a couple situations where you throw out a hook and then you kind of went in with that, and unfortunately that got you killed, which ultimately gives up objectives and a lot of pressure your team has. I don't know how many wards did you put out that game. Let's see here. Let's see, Thresh. 18 wards placed with a Sightstone, that's not a lot. You should always be looking to have places with wards and making sure that you're getting them placed everywhere. 2 vision wards is okay. I could probably steal a few more from there. But you definitely, whenever objectives are coming up, now that everybody knows when Dragon, when Baron are going to be spawning, whether or not you had vision on it. You want to make sure that you are trying to get some vision in there.
Mm-hmm. So, question in chat, what exactly are you doing here? This is Bronze Bootcamp, hosted by Training Force Podcast. We do in-house 5v5s, help each player receive feedback on their gameplay from higher elo players. If you're not Silver 5 and below, feel free to check out the Battle Arena, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. All the information, just head over to trinityforcenetwork.com and hit the Battle Arena tab. I would say that's the best TLDR I can give you. So I'll put that link in the chat for the new person. So I'll kind of run down everybody, and people who are playing in the next game, feel free to check. You should be getting lobby invites in the next few minutes.
Yeah.
Victor, you had a question in chat. Let me answer it. Do I build Abyssal versus Karma? She hurts so badly I don't have MR runes. Also, I find Void Staff hard to build, as then they got Locket. I need something to help me survive, so I went for Zonias. Alright, so as Victor here, Abyssal's not bad. I think you should just be running MR on your runes versus Karma, because she is a really difficult lane. I don't think there are a lot of lanes you run MR on your runes anymore, but I think like Karma, LeBlanc, champions that really need to snowball early game, it can be helpful on. If she's giving you that hard a time, I don't know. Like, it's really hard for me to justify Abyssal here because of how little AP the other team has. So you could have. I think you just kind of have to like bite the pillow and play with that Abyssal and try not to die against Karma. I think your build is relatively correct. But I also think getting Hourglass over Void is fine here. I think their comeback mechanic is Gragas ulting you in a team fight, or Gragas ulting Caitlyn in a team fight, and Hourglass is really good there. Sometimes Hourglass isn't good against Gragas because you get ulted in a team fight and you press Hourglass and they just mess you up still. But when you have Janna, you can safely assume that you're going to get some peel out of Hourglass. The Caitlyn, we talked about Summoner Spell. I also don't understand why you'd have upgrading Warding Totem on an AD carry. I'd go with Scrying Orb, and I would go with Heal. On Caitlyn, I didn't see a lot that stood out to me as like bad. I would say both AD carries just generally really need to work on CS. It is pretty poor in lane. But as far as your laning phase is concerned, just try and get more auto attacks in. Make sure you're headshotting when it's up. And after lane, I didn't see you misplay a lot. I don't know. I'll watch more closely next game if you play. I think that's kind of on me. The TLT Hawk. Building straight damage when you are behind in lane. You were 1-4 and you really got punished for it. And when you start to build tanky, you got that Randuin's, you got the Hex Drinker, you got those boots, you start to come back. It's really, really big deal. That's really important. If you're playing a bruiser with no escape or no gap closer, you have to be tanky. Because you're kind of just like slowly rolling around in fights like a giant or like an ogre even. And you're going to take some damage, either residual or direct. You need to be tanky, especially when you're losing that badly. In lane, you did come back when you got tanky, but when you're losing lane, build tanky. In lane, don't queue to farm. You need to only be queuing to trade on Darius, like 100%. Unless they're not in lane and you're really trying to push it out, but I saw it a couple times and I talked about it before the game. So build and watching when you queue in lane. And you played the Gangplank game the other day. We saw the same thing. You really need to understand that your auto attack should be doing the last thing. Your skill should be doing the trading. So on Gangplank, you weren't using your passive or your Q to trade. On Darius, you're not using your Q to trade enough. I'd really go into custom, practice last hitting with only your auto attacks, and get used to using your spells to trade. Once you do that, you'll really make like a huge leap in your gameplay, because you're not playing poorly, but that's something that really needs to be fixed. Elise, if you play Elise, you need to pressure the map a lot more early game. There's a lot more that goes into it, and every game is so vastly different. I can't give you like a 100% way to do that. We'll look at a couple of things in the item builds though. So like if your lane has CC, you don't want to use Cocoon until that CC lands, because once they're CC'd, even a slow, it's much easier to land Cocoon. If you don't know if you can hit Cocoon or not, you should be using Repel and getting on top of them so you don't miss Cocoon. Going for a long range Cocoon when you have like 100% kill is kind of silly. You can also like come out of Spider, get the damage down from Repel, get on top of them, and then just sit on them in Human and keep auto attacking them and like bait a flash and the Cocoon after the flash. So a couple of strong plays you can make there. Biggest issue I had was itemization. You were really behind on this game. I don't understand the Sorks. I don't understand the Leandries. I like the Locket though. I'd look for more defensive items, even if you want to build AP. Abyssal is good. Hourglass is good. Locket's good. But you really want to get CDR. That's the biggest thing you're missing for your build. You only have 20% CDR here. I get the question a lot, how do you make Elise useful late game? And Elise is useful late game, 1, because she still kind of does damage and so on and so forth. 2, her Cocoon is like 2 seconds, and it's on like a 6 or 7 second cooldown. And once you get 40% CDR, it's on like a 5 second cooldown. So you really need to be spamming like Cocoon on 40% CDR. So Cargen, did you get Burn, X Blades, Nova, and Invite?
No, I don't think so.
Is he on the invite list?
I don't see him on the invite list.
Alright, so Burn, Exploit, Nova, you can play up in the 3rd game if you sign up, but this game is pretty close to full. Remember to go to TrinityForceNetwork.com and use the sign up sheet. If you are not on this, it is hard for me to get you into the game.
Yeah.
So please use sign up sheet if you want to play. Oh, did I close the last game? Alright, so Riven, I would go to YouTube and try and find a video on animation canceling. I don't think you're animation canceling at all in Riven. You're also really cocky and not using W until after they flash. I don't know. Late game when you're a team fight and if they flash they live and if you stun they die, you really need to do that. After Riven, after 15 minutes, my decision making tank and I gave it free farm and he caught up. So in team fights too, you really want to be trying to like A, show up to team fights in time. B, when you have flash, you should be looking for flash W with ult up. Or you can do flash 3rd Q into W. I mean, they're both good plays. But flash W is much harder for them to predict. So that's kind of your usefulness late game and in a team fight. But just early game you played well and you good teleports. I think you could have just split top and when you had teleport, and especially when you had flash, and like brought a lot more pressure to your team. I don't need to. Horse loves me. I love you, Burn, X Blaze, Nova, but I have to be fair. So Thresh, Cargen touched on it for the most part. I think Thresh and Janna made the same mistake of upgrading their gold item too early. So that's like a big takeaway. Seal, you played well in Karma. I think like the biggest thing you need to work on is less sitting. But you brought a lot of vision to the map and you played well in lane. I don't think there's anything that stood out to me, but I don't play Karma at all. So hey, I don't even know what new Karma does. So Jinx, you should be buying IE first on Jinx. You should be buying Scrying Orb. Double lifesteal before you have Last Whisper. You did like no damage. Lifesteal is a defensive stat. Remember that. That's why I don't like double lifesteal. You don't do enough damage, and you aren't as tanky as 1 lifesteal item, 1 defensive item. It's like a weird in between. Like sometimes it's okay at 6 items, but generally I'm not a big fan. So it's Scrying Orb and Build are the 2 biggest items. But mechanically, I think you were playing the team fights pretty correctly. I think you kind of understood when you need to be careful and Victor had laser and stuff. But the Bork on Jinx and not being able to critically hit was big. Frown Power, you snowballed early game really hard. You got punished really hard because you started like splitting top when Dragon was up, or like when big fights were going on in the other team's jungle. I understand you don't want your team to fight there, but when you have a lead as a jungler, like split pushing is kind of ridiculous. 114 farm is a lot for Gragas. 0 pink ward spot in the game, really questionable too. Mid to late game, I really didn't see you looking to make plays with ult or flash body slam or anything. You kind of just went into like AFK Gragas mode. So just really look to like put the pedal to the metal and do something. In statistics, the game was relatively close. The big fight that turned it was this one. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but statistics. Pink wards, none out of Goddess, none out of Victor. That needs to change. Green wards, none out of Riven. That means you didn't buy any green wards until level 9. That's not great. Goddess, that's fine because you get Sightstone so early. I wouldn't ever go Sightstone Trailblazer though. I think if you get Sightstone Jungle, you don't get it that early. But I don't think that's the reason you lost at all.
Chen's asking in chat about like the Sightstone upgrade before you upgrade your gold generating item, and the idea behind it is you want to have some sort of vision control. Like, take this into as an example. If you go back to base and you upgrade your gold generating item and then pick up pieces to Sightstone, well then let's say I turn around and as the enemy support I pick up Sightstone and a sweeper. The Sightstone gives you health and gives you some durability in lane, which is great. But the ability to be able to place more wards and place more control in that bottom lane helps you from getting ganked. And with that sweeper coming up off charge 2, it allows you to be able to clear out an important bush area. And since you just had like 2 green wards on hand, that vision is effectively just removed almost permanently until you go back to base and either get Sightstone or pick up more green wards. So you want to get that Sightstone first, especially if you're behind, so you can just try and have some sort of vision control. Otherwise, you're kind of asking to get hit hard with a gank.
Alright. So, you want to give Burnex Blaze Nova an invite? He didn't use the silent sheet, but he also hasn't played yet.
Ooh, alright. Typing. That name does not exist. I'm trying to remember who he is. Burnex, who are you? Did I just type it in wrong?
Oh, it's VG Sparkle Dragon.
Oh.
I don't know why I didn't buy pinks. That was pretty uncommon for me. Alright, so any other questions? Did he talk about Kate yet? We talked about Kate a little bit. Did you have any big questions, Kate? I think the biggest things were the clarity pickup and the not upgrading your trinket ward. But in lane, you really need to be using headshot. And in team fights, you need to be able to do EQ combo. And when an objective is coming up, like a dragon or something, you should be trapping it out a little bit harder as well. Get online.
You gotta be online, Sparkle. If you asking for invites, you gotta actually be online to accept invites.
So no super on 80 carry. No, 80 carry should be Scrying Orb. And why Scrying Orb is so strong, and I pointed it out a lot in that game, you'll see that the Jinx got punished pretty hard for not buying it. The ability to see something from really far away, so you don't have to face check it, or a teammate doesn't have to face check it, or like, I don't know, you don't get juked out in a bush and you can still auto attack. It's really strong.
Sparkle Dragon, you're not even online. What are you doing with your life?
Oh, is it just 2 of them? No, they can play on the same team.
Yeah,
alright. Alright. Invite and Versity from the last game and TLT Hawk, and whichever one joins first can play it. So what's the easiest way to find old specific BBC games on YouTube? Just search by the game date. Like, I label them all BBC and then date, so they're kind of catalog. So what Horse is saying, you should take Clairvoyance. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Take Clairvoyance on everybody. It says it's full for Lancifer.
Yeah,
do you want to invite Lancifer again? He didn't play in the last one. So this is Lancifer. Everybody, when he gets into the game, feel free to thank him. He is the wonderful video editor for the T-Force podcast, The Proper. Lancifer.
He's also on Wednesday's T4's D&D group.
And we'll talk about that in the plug a little bit. So. Rules for anybody who missed it last game. No TeamSpeak. No being bad-mannered. Have fun and don't target ban people. We're trying to help people practice whatever champions they want to play in ranked. And if you play, I don't know, a champion that's perma-banned in ranked, I can't promise it's not going to get banned in here because this is supposed to be like solo queue. But I don't know, if somebody's a Poppy player and you ban Poppy because they're on the other team, that needs to not happen. So, VG Sparkle Dragon, I'm sorry. You will not get into this game. If you want to play, you really should be on time. We'll get you into next game if you are here, though. Just remember to A, use the sign-up sheet, and B, try and show up on time. But there are 11 other people, 2 casters, and 9 other players. So starting on time is pretty important.
Yeah.
Okay. And stream will be down for like 15 seconds, so we'll see you guys back in a